Okay guys, I've got a really fun project to share with you today. I'm just using an old cabinet door and I've painted it using white paint in the center, and I'm using a black paint along the frame part of the cabinet. And so for the little inside lip, I'm just taking a small artist brush and using that same black paint. Once that is all dry, I'm going to take this beautiful decoupage paper. It's called Bathed in Gold. It's Mint by Michelle paper. And so I'm just laying it down in the center there and using my nails just to kind of give me an indication of where I need to cut. I hated cutting this beautiful paper, but I know that I can use the extra pieces on another project, maybe a book or something. So anyway, I've got this, I'm going to quickly get this cut out. You don't have to be, too exact, because your paper is going to end up stretching once it gets wet from the decoupage medium. So any excess overlay that's on the edges there of my surface, I'll use an X-Acto knife to just cut away that excess, or if it's not too much, sometimes I just paint over it, because you just cannot tell. So here I've got DIY's liquid patina. I'm using this as my decoupage medium. And so I'm going to work in sections because it's just a lot easier when you got a really big piece of paper like this. So I'm going to start out I'm going to paint on my decoupage medium, and I'm going to go up about 3 inches or so. And so this is really probably the hardest part, is just getting your paper started, getting it straight. So I just try to get it, get the corners, make sure it's in the corners lined up, and then you have a little bit of time to maneuver the paper. So, but take your time here. Make sure you get a good starting point, because that's going to make your whole, it's going to make your whole project just look better. So once you've got it started good, just use your hand to kind of smooth out the area where you've got the decoupage medium. Or you can just use a rubber, this is a rubber like scraper. It's a decorative painting tool. But just whatever you can. You don't want to be too firm on the paper. This is, this is a sturdy paper, but you don't want to manipulate it too much. So I'm just going to continue on down. I'm just going to take my time, just ease it down section by section. Again, brushing on about 3 inches of decoupage medium, laying the paper down and smoothing over it. So I'm just going to speed this up a little bit so we can keep going. I did want to show the whole process, but here we go. Now, if you're not familiar with DIY's liquid patina, you can use Mod Podge or whatever decoupage medium you are used to using. Now, along the way, I started spritzing my paper with water. You see I have just a water mister there, so I just lightly spritz the paper. This just kind of allows the paper to expand a little bit, so you can smooth out the wrinkles easier. Now, don't get too caught up with the wrinkles, because you are going to have some wrinkles at this point, but just know that once the decoupage medium dries, pretty much all of your wrinkles will have been smoothed out. So don't try to overwork it, to get the wrinkles out, because you might end up just tearing the paper at this point. So make sure your the edges of your paper are making good contact. And then you're going to brush decoupage medium over the entire front of the paper, making sure that your edges and your corners are covered really well. Now, another thing I like to do, and this helps with eliminating wrinkles, is using a plastic wrap on top of the decoupage medium and rolling with using a brayer and rolling out your wrinkles. Now, if you don't have a brayer, you can just, usually I use saran wrap for this, but I just didn't have any handy. And so this is the plastic wrap that the decoupage paper came in. So I'm just laying that down and just rolling on top of the plastic, lifting it up. Now, and it always, you can see where it really does help with the wrinkles. So I do this all the way down, and then we will have to put, since this, using plastic takes a lot of the decoupage medium off, and so once I go all the way down with the brayer and the plastic, I will brush on another coat of decoupage medium. Now, if you don't have a brayer, this is what I meant to say earlier, you can just take a piece of plastic wrap and kind of wad it up in your hand and just use that to kind of tap around the paper, or gently rub the paper, and it works the same way. So again, once I've gone all the way down the paper with the plastic, I will brush on another coat of decoupage medium, and then you will just let that dry. And as you can see, there are some visible wrinkles, but I promise you, once it dries like this, it's going to look so much better. So here I've got some little glass crystals. She has what looks like some little crystal hairpiece, a crystal necklace. And so I am adding glass to those areas, which will be held down when we resin. So now I'm going to finish the frame of my project with clear wax. So I'm just going to go all the way around using I'm using a kind of a heavy duty chip brush. It has thick natural bristles, which makes for a really good wax brush. So I'm going to go all the way around with this, and then we will add some gold wax. So the gold wax is so pretty over the black. So this is by Amy Howard, and I just took some out of the container and just put it on a little piece of cardboard. And again, I'm using a pretty thick chip brush, and I just want to make sure all my bristles are kind of evenly distributed with wax. And then I'm just going to lightly, with an easy hand, a light hand, start brushing on the gold wax. So you want to kind of rub it around that piece of cardboard first, because you don't want to get just some big globs of wax in a spot like that. And so, I mean, you can, that's not really a big glob, but it could happen. So you just have to kind of ease that out, blend it in. But it's always better to start light, because you can always go back and just build it up and add as much gold as you want. So I'm just going to go all the way around the frame, doing the same thing, just lightly brushing some on, just my first coat. There you can see it a little closer up. But see how subtle it is, and it really gives a nice glow to the black. So I like to start at the ends and kind of meet in the middle, and then go from end to end with nice smooth brush strokes. So another thing I like to do with the gold wax is just to kiss the edges per se with the wax. Using the chip brush, I just kind of flick the edges either up or down with the brush. So now it is time to add epoxy resin. So here I'm just measuring out my two components of resin. One's the resin actually, and one's the hardener. And so you mix them in equal amounts. Now each brand of resin has their own instructions. So it is important to read the manufacturer's instructions of whatever brand of resin you use. This particular one, I could mix in 1 cup equal amounts of part A and B, and then I stirred it for 3 minutes. So as you're stirring, and I'm using a silicone stick, but you could use a popsicle stick. But I stir it, scraping the sides and scraping the bottom. And then these instructions call for me to pour that mixture into another cup and mix for about another minute, I think. And so once you do that, it should be clear. And then I'm going to take my stick and start drizzling on the little glass pieces first. So that's going to hold, the resin will hold the little pieces in. So I start by making sure that's all covered well, and then I just pour out the rest. I just start pouring down the paper, back and forth. Just making sure that I get enough resin. I never know how much to mix up, but anyway, but I like to keep a little bit in the cup just because as I start smoothing it out, I usually need a little bit more in a few places. So always leave a little bit in your cup just to fill in some spots. Now I'm just actually going to use my hand. Make sure you have gloves on for this. But I just find it easier just to smooth out the resin with my hands. You can use, some kind of putty knife or silicone scraper or anything like that. I just feel like I have more control with my hands. Make sure you have resin pushed up against all the sides. So resin is self-leveling. So another good thing is to have your project level, because as it's curing, it will move towards gravity, and so you don't want it to slide down, to one end. So, but make sure that the resin is all nice and up to the edges, and make sure it's level. Now, once it's all nice and covered, you're going to, I'm going to take my gloves off because they're covered with resin, of course. And then I'm going to take my heat gun and pop the bubbles that have risen to the surface. And I actually will do this a couple of times, like within 15 minutes. You check it, see if any bubbles have come up, and then you're just going to take your heat gun and don't hold it in one place, but just move it around. You'll see the little tiny bubbles popping. And have a light. A light really helps you see if any dust or debris or something tiny has fallen into your resin. And you can just use a toothpick to get that out. And you can look for areas that are thin with resin, and so you can pour more there. And again, don't worry about it. Don't worry about smoothing it out too much because it is self-leveling. So after you've used up all of your resin here, then go back with your heat gun and check for more bubbles. And again, like I said, do that, after you pop the bubbles this time, I usually kind of give it like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I will check it one more time and use my heat gun to pop any bubbles. And once I'm satisfied with how the resin looks, I go ahead and remove the tape. And this is what she looks like finished. It looks like she's covered in glass. There are her jewels all nicely resined. And I really, really, really love how it turned out. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.